there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that Republican field, there was some very interesting news that has just came out that Joe Biden basically he's fundraising.
Yeah.
He fundraised, I guess is the word, every single Republican nominee by himself. So if you add up everybody, the stats here, Donald Trump in the Republican field, he raised $35 million. I think that was the last quarter. Ron DeSantis was 20.1 million. Nikki Haley was 7.3. Tim Scott was 6.1. Vivek Ramaswamy, 2.3 million.
Good job.
And Chris Christie, 1.7. If you add all that up, Joe Biden raised more money than all of them combined. Now, to be fair, a lot of that money, because it comes from the Democratic National Committee, and a lot of that money is lumped in with the money that goes directly to Joe Biden, where the money from the Republican side doesn't necessarily show in these numbers. So that's to be fair. But that being said, for a couple reasons, that's a big deal. Joe Biden's getting a huge head start on this entire field. And I've heard some Republican people not too thrilled with Donald Trump, and they almost want him out of the race because some of them don't feel like he's going to be there. I'm one of them who feels like he's not going to be there. And he is holding back more fundraising for a lot more of these Republican candidates. And, again, that's a benefit to Joe Biden and the Democrats for as long as that goes on. I hope he stays in forever.
Sucks the life out of the Republican Party by DeSantis out here firing his staff because he's not doing that great.
Yeah, I don't think it's the staff that he needs to worry about or fire. I think he maybe just need to fire himself because I live in Florida and I've seen this guy. I've heard him speak. And I knew who he was before everybody nationally. Not me personally. I mean, I just know, that, and a lot of people got to know him nationally. And I was telling people here in Florida, this guy has a 0% chance of winning. They're like, there are literals, just like Donald Trump. There are DeSantis flags around here. There's, people flying the flags. And around Florida at one particular point, he was the king. And some people were like, I might like this guy more than Donald Trump. And I said, I'm telling you, he has no chance. He's awkward. He's weird. Even his own staff doesn't particularly care for him. They think he's awkward and weird. And that is proving out even way more than I had even anticipated.
Yeah. He and his weird wife.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He is just
strange one.
Yeah, they just are, and it's just so weird. He doesn't even know where he wants to stand. He's like right of Donald Trump, and how can he be right of Donald Trump? It's like carve out your own path. You would have done better. Not that I care about Ron DeSantis. I'm glad that he's just getting pummeled because he's an asshole.
Yeah, he really is. And again, as I've said before, a lot of these guys and women, there's still a shot for all of them because we've seen a million times presidential candidates run and you thought they had no chance. Joe Biden is a perfect example of that. There was a point where you thought he had no chance and he went to South Carolina and that totally turned everything around. John McCain was another one. Bill Clinton. There's plenty of them that turned their campaigns around and wound up becoming the nominee. Could that happen for DeSantis? Maybe. I just don't see it because I don't think he resonates with people.
He doesn't resonate. And even if Donald Trump got 2 more indictments, Donald is not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere until he goes in handcuffs. Like he's just not going to go. It's going to be like the Bernie Sanders. Like he'll hold on until the last minute and then he'll burn down everything as he goes. He's not going to let DeSantis do that. He's just not going to. You saw, was that whatever they just had? Was that a rally or whatever? No, it was some type of
they had a convention.
Event. Booing everybody. Booing everyone. Everyone got booed. So that is an indication that if it's not Trump for them, they're not going to come out.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly the MAGA party.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like it's going anywhere. We talked earlier about, the overturning of Roe versus Wade. The Republican Party waited out a very long time. They actually got what they wanted with this MAGA party in 2016, and they are convinced they can get it back again. I'm not convinced, and I know I'm not saying it's a done deal, and I'm not saying that the Democrats are a slam dunk to win, but I do believe overall the country says, I have two choices. I don't particularly love them, although I'm going to tell everybody, let me interrupt myself for really quick. I don't care what show I'm on, what podcast I'm doing. If I'm doing a podcast on pie baking, which I wouldn't be able to say anything, but here's one thing I will contribute. I am telling everybody that Joe Biden is a phenomenal president. And any more of this, well, I don't know about Joe Biden. Why don't you know about Joe Biden? Joe Biden has done everything right. Yeah, okay, you'll see him every once in a while. He'll stumble over his words. He'll look a little lost. He's like, he's kind of like the grandpa, the fun grandpa kind of thing. But everything he's done has been fantastic. Now, if you want to argue whether or not all of that should be contributed to him, that's somewhat of a valid argument. But you know what? A year and a half ago, when all the Republicans were saying that inflation was Joe Biden's fault, and because of his policies, I would ask them just one question. My question would be, okay, if inflation is now down to 4%, how could it possibly, if it was because of his policy, wouldn't inflation continue to rise?
Exactly.
I mean, it's a pretty simple math equation. You don't have to be an economic expert to kind of put that one together, no?
Or any of it. People just, I don't know what's wrong with people, to be honest with you, because I get so confused and frustrated on social media platforms to hear people complain, well, what has Biden done? It's like, are we serious right now? You got those checks in the mail during the pandemic or directly deposited. So
he didn't sign his name to it. That's the problem.
Right. So it started there. The child poverty is at its all-time low. Unemployment is at its all. And the child poverty is because he was giving the child tax credits ahead of time. They had the brilliant idea to do that so that people didn't starve. They put the moratorium so that you didn't lose your mortgages and your apartments and your homes. Like, we use our CHIPS Act, pack that.
Well, how about even the Republicans who are touting the Infrastructure Act that is bringing the roads and bridges to their town, and they're celebrating it, but they leave out one little caveat there.
Exactly.
It was because of Joe Biden. Yeah. And I think Joe Biden's an easy fodder. He's an old guy, and he sounds, every once in a while he looks like he can get confused. So I think people stick with that because it's just easier. It's easier to relate to rather than actually looking at the facts, and rather than saying, wait a minute, maybe this guy is doing a pretty damn good job. And let's forget, or not forget, and people might every once in a while think this is a bad thing, but Joe Biden's been in politics for a very long time.
Absolutely.
And especially on the international side of politics, almost nobody is better than Joe Biden.
Absolutely.
As an international representative for the United States of America. Almost nobody.
Yeah. And he's an attorney.
Yeah.
Attorney, senator, vice president. Are y'all joking? Right.
So there was another little thing about that fundraising that I thought was a positive thing for Joe Biden. It says that the Biden campaign said that 30% of the donations that past quarter were from new donors, from people who did not give to Joe Biden in 2020. So that's an encouraging sign, because you need more of that, because you're talking about the guy who got the most votes in the history of the United States. And yes, anybody that's watching this that is a Trump supporter, he 100% got 81 million plus votes. Correct. That too. 100%. But yeah, he got 81 million votes. And if he's getting donations from more people that did not vote for him the last time, that's a very encouraging sign.
Let's go Gen Z, because we know that y'all are out here.
There's absolutely no question. And you know what? quite frankly, Gen Z is going to be a big difference maker, because I do believe, as the older people get older and, you have younger people coming in to vote, they are way more on the side of, you know what, I'm not here to bash Black people, gay, transgender, that's not cool to me. I just, and I see this and I'm like, well, I see one side doing it, and I see the other one not doing it, and they're defending one and the other one's not. It's pretty simple,
Simple, right?
choice
Yeah.
for them. And, quite frankly, even if you don't like Joe Biden, you're telling me that you think that Donald Trump is a better candidate than anybody. I don't that's one thing I'll never understand. But I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and trying to figure out and understand something that just is not understandable is, you gotta at some point just move on from it and just do your best to move forward and try to get maybe one or two people to say, hey, maybe you're looking in the wrong direction. Let me tell you why. And hopefully it changes some people's mind. And if anybody wants to come up to me and go, no, Brian, you're looking in the wrong direction, here's why, I'm all ears. I'm all ears to listen to it. You tell me why, and then we'll have that discussion.
Yeah, no policy, no nothing, just Trump, because he's a victim, I guess.
Yeah.